Hello, innovators. I hope you guys are well. I hope everyone's having a lovely weekend. And welcome back to another Crypto Outlook. It's been a damn while. It certainly has. But as you've probably seen, and hopefully you guys are enjoying, we are full-time back on YouTube. We wanted to take some time out, hit the drawing board, and figure out what else we can do to provide some value alongside just chart analysis. Now, hopefully, with the videos that have been posted so far and hopefully you've seen, you've probably got a bit of an idea of what we think is likely on the verge of happening next. And that, of course, goes without saying, an alt season. Now, looking at the markets here and where we currently are, what we want to do in this video is kind of explain why I think an alt season is still pending, and also assess where we likely currently are within the cycle and take a few telltale signs of that to try and gauge what could be happening next. Now, looking at BTC and the total market cap side by side, first of all, I think it's safe to say at a point in time like this, we are probably approaching the end phase of the cycle. Now, looking at the current market action and looking at the previous monthly closures, both are monthly time frames shown, by the way, we've had our first real significant bearish candle and one of the biggest bearish candles we've seen in quite some time. Now, immediately this shifts the sentiment and people are immediately at this point in time going to be thinking it's over. And I don't think that's the case. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this video. Now, when it comes to determining market tops, I'm not the greatest at it, as you've probably seen, but inevitably I tend to get it right. I am far better, and one thing that I am very good at is predicting bottoms. And if there's one thing I've managed to do every single cycle without failure, is capture those bottoms, which also allows me freedom for pretty much capturing every Pico bottom to sometimes misgauge where the top can be and sell earlier. And that's pretty much what happened in this cycle. I think it goes without saying, first of all, I wasn't perfect this cycle in knowing where we would actually go and how high we would go. As a matter of fact, I thought this was coming in the next cycle. But of course, as traders, we're bound to make mistakes. We're not going to get everything perfect. We reassess, we adapt, we hit the drawing board, and we continue. And we'll be breaking down XRP in this video as well to give you guys a bit of an insight into what I've done with that. But looking at BTC here, in terms of the actual bottom itself, I Pico called that, and I was very public about this during that time. I thought this was going to be our turning point. Unfortunately, it did end up being the turning point. Now, I was kind of capping and looking around, capping that movement towards around 45-50k for this particular cycle. I thought we were going to flush these highs, potentially drop back down, and then get this big move, and we didn't get that. And of course, once we started to get up to here, I had to hit the drawing board, reassess. Unfortunately, since the moment we got the Trump pump, I've been pretty spot on with my calls so far. If you've been in the free app, you would have known we called this move up to 100k. If you've been in obviously the apps and you've seen social media, you would have also, as a paid member, seen since that 109k top, which I also called, we've been perfectly in flow with the market. And therefore, with that currently happening, I think what I think is about to happen next is due to happen next. In fact, if you've paid any attention to what I've been saying in the free app version of the app, or even on social media, we are currently moving exactly in line with expectations. And I think what we are about to see is going to be setting up for the grand finale. Now, notably, we need to assess where we are in this cycle. And of course, unless you are somewhat blinded by what's going on, we have been rising for a very long time now. Notably, BTC is up around 605% from Pico bottom to Pico top. Furthermore, we have been rising since the FTX crash in November 2022. Now, obviously, looking at this chart from the offset and looking at the total market cap chart from here as well, which is up around 400%, it's safe to assume the cycle is not just getting started. It is safe to assume we are probably not even at the midpoint, so to speak, of the cycle so far. As a matter of fact, once you see a bearish candle of this nature, you are generally in the end phase of the market and the end phase of this particular cycle. You know, when you actually look and observe at how much the narratives have changed, and even yourself as a person, how you probably felt in November when Trump was announced the president of the United States compared to how you feel now, no doubt reality is starting to kick in. And of course, this is a classic telltale sign of how the markets operate. Now, when you look at how long we've been rising for and compare this to previous cycles, first of all, getting a little rectangular tool up to here, just using a rough example of what's going on. We have generally seen one of the longer cycles that have been in play from Pico bottoms to Pico tops. And when you just generally assess from where we've bottomed to where we currently are, a lot of this beginning and a lot of this whole entire journey has been based upon BTC finally reaching the 100k level. And of course, it was no surprise that once we achieved that level with a slight breach above to really maximize FOMO, the market has now topped at present and has obviously seen a bit of a decline. Now, this has essentially been one of the biggest driving forces for the market. And since 2017, we have really seen that 100k narrative fulfilled. And of course, now we are here, it raises some deeper questions when you consider that we now have the government fully involved in the cryptocurrency market, that the landscape of this may be changing. And I find it quite ironic that the government truly contributed and officially, keyword officially, got involved within the market once we struck that 100k level. And we're going to be breaking a lot of that down as well. Now, when you look at where we are, I would assume at this current point in time, and what I believe is happening, is we are actually seeing a bit of a mirror of what took place in 2021. Now, notably, this cycle, just like various others, has seen a few dips and a few declines here and there. But overall, we have not seen much of a significant pullback. And it's been a general easy ride for many people who would have likely jumped in late. And we want to almost create a journey here to understand where we are in this cycle and what the usual characteristics are. What is notable at this current point in time, and why I've started to make videos saying there's going to be an alt season, is because I truly believe there will be. And I don't see this logically being any different to any other cycle we've seen before. As a matter of fact, the fact is people are so broken at this point, which is unbelievable to me. Record liquidation numbers similar to numbers we saw during COVID and FTX. How the hell is that happening at all-time highs? That tells me one simple thing. This cycle has been too easy for those that bought likely during the ETF situation, and notably here following the Trump pump. Now, of course, unless you are very naive, likelihood was a big drive up of this nature with bullish news to pair, of course, is going to do the opposite. That is exactly how markets work. And I actually raised this question on X the other day, where do you genuinely believe, first and foremost, do you genuinely believe that the very same people crypto was meant to go against, the very same people crypto was designed to avoid? The Bitcoin white paper does not mention digital gold. It was designed and born out of the financial crisis. The individuals that people are now begging to get involved and save the market are the people that were not meant to be involved in this market in the first place. And the fact they're now here, the landscape has changed. Things are very, very different. And this is unfortunately probably contributing to everything I'm currently looking at and will be breaking down in this video. We are now at a point where the very same entities we try to escape with this technology are back in control. And the strategic reserve and digital asset stockpile is going to play a rather intricate role in much of this as well, I feel. But looking at where we are now and looking at what can happen next, there's actually a very simple understanding, I feel, to what could be taking place here. And that is, of course, understanding the market as a whole, which is currently underway in a very, very large channel. As a matter of fact, if you simply look at the market from this basis, first of all, and I'm going to go ahead and mirror this on the total market cap, I think this is one of the cleaner blueprints to really understand where we currently are in the cycle and what could be happening. Now, notably with this simple channel here, and this is, again, for me, trend lines are often the key foundation to what could be going on here. I find it quite strange that BTC, and I'm going to be using the brush tool quite a bit to illustrate and annotate, but logically, the market has actually fallen short of striking this level, which is approximately around a $120,000 BTC. Now, looking at how we've obviously reversed from here, this is very likely indicating some more downside. And I think this is absolutely perfect because there are some simple characteristics of these market cycles that people seemingly are forgetting at this current point in time. And that, of course, is an alt season. The cycles never truly end until we see an alt season. The only difference in this cycle is the rotations have just been a little bit more complex and more oriented specifically towards notable high performers, which is predominantly Solana, which obviously contributed to the meme bubble and the meme frenzy, and XRP and HBAR, to name a few. And we're going to be looking at those alongside Ethereum in this video as well to give you a bit of an understanding of why history is likely repeating, just in a slightly different form and with a different layer of rotations coming into play. Now, of course, to understand the cycle first of all, the key for me really is the cycle likely has not topped until BTC at least drives in towards this level and likely flushes through to create maximum FOMO. From the offset, I would say our cycle top is likely more of a logical assumption to be finito from around this level here, which immediately tells us there is an outstanding move to the upside here that is still pending to be fulfilled. Simultaneously, a much larger drive up on the total market cap is currently presented towards the $5 trillion region. And if you assess what has contributed to this total market cap growth so far, I would say it's very, very likely, with a significant amount of altcoins still trading around all-time lows, the likelihood is they will play a very significant role in contributing to the growth of this total market cap to achieve this region up here, specifically a notable underperformer such as Ethereum, which has become a bit of a laughing stock in the crypto world so far because Solana's stolen the limelight. However, I don't think anything's necessarily changed, and as always, if you've taken anything from previous videos, especially the XRP journey, when people are overly greedy and FOMOing and fall for the narratives and refuse to believe price will go down again, I understand there's a higher likelihood of going lower. However, in this very intricate web that we are currently within, people believe Ethereum is dead and over. And because Ethereum's underperformed so much, I think that is one of the larger performers that is due to follow very, very soon. And the key to that, of course, if you've paid attention to previous videos, is a very large capitulation event. What makes this cycle so different, and quite evidently, a lot of people probably don't hold Bitcoin. I don't hold Bitcoin myself. I didn't buy any here either. I bought altcoins instead when the crash came through. I basically used the total market cap and BTC's bottom, which I identified, to buy altcoins instead. And many of those at their Pico lows have done fantastically well from that November pump. In fact, for a lot of altcoins, I'm still not in a loss. I'm actually not even in a drawdown for many of them. I'm still in a profit of around 100% because of how low I purchased those coins and got myself and the members in. The only difference here is most people were losing faith on altcoins and BTC and everything else. And a lot of the bulk interest and retail FOMO specifically came in after the Trump pump. Now, notably, common sense and logic. A candle like that, again, the people we were meant to escape are now involved. You have to think about this logically. Let's assess this properly. From here, from that breakout to here, from this breakout. Now, this came on the news of Trump becoming president, and notably everywhere you turned and every YouTube video with those stupid mouth open thumbnails were all saying the same thing. Trump is here, the best is yet to come, blah, 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 blah. Let's think about this logically. Are these people your friends? Are these people here to assist you and help you make money? As a matter of fact, when have you ever turned on Bloomberg or watched Jim Cramer or listened to something from JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, or even the politicians themselves, and it has actually worked and assisted you and helped you make money? I can argue that has never been the case. But when money is allocated within the market off the assumption of narratives, which is basically an echo chamber on social media, specifically X, you will willingly part with your money because everyone around you is within the same echo chamber, screaming higher and higher and higher and higher. And that is an unfortunate reality of crypto, where FOMO, greed, emotions are significantly higher than anything else you will see in any other markets, because it's a constant speculative bubble of people just presuming they're going to get rich immediately. Now, the question is here, notably, this all happened near the toppy period of the cycle. So when this came through, everyone's logically thinking, oh, perfect, Trump's president. Everyone's saying this is going to go a million times higher. I will buy more now. That's obviously not the case. When price goes up in synchronization with positive news, it's generally going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. When price crashes down off negative news, when it's already near the bottom, it's the exact same as what happened up here. And you will note Trump actually marked the Pico top at inauguration. That tells me a very telling sign. Now, looking at this further, what are the usual characteristics of cycles, an alt season? What are the usual characteristics of a market beginning to bottom? A lack of faith, a lack of belief, significant levels of fear, which is normally a perfect recipe for a continuation higher. Now that reality is beginning to set in, I think we are near that final phase. And notably, the landscape of crypto as an entirety is going to change completely now that we are on the cusp of executive orders, which mention regulations and various other things. So we want to take all of this into consideration. Now I'm going to open up more charts here, and I want you to look at something very important as well, because we can begin to see some interesting similarities that I'm going to bring across the board here. Now XRP massively performed this cycle, but it has done something notable over here. It has driven up and liquidated the all-time high, followed by a bearish candle and a FOMO drive this month, which I think has marked the top of XRP for now. In fact, minus a possibility to squeeze up to $4, I think XRP's at the end of the road. And if we are to follow a blueprint that is going to mirror what happened in 2021, you will note here, after a significant period of upside, very similar to where we are now, bullish news, Elon Musk buying, Michael Saylor top fragging Bitcoin at random prices, all of this is designed to lure you into making, arguably, some very, very stupid decisions. Now, with that being said, and looking at the characteristics, you will notice something happened here in 2021. When the market created its first top and had its first reversal, this shook out most people. What then happened is most people jumped back in. What Bitcoin's simply done at that point in time is a bit similar to what I'm showing you here on XRP. And as a matter of fact, Ethereum also done the same thing recently. The only difference is F did not go on to make new highs, which obviously some pairs have done so. If you now understand what could be happening here, quite simply, using very clean lines for the time being, this is a broken level of support. Price literally just needs to, ideally at the very least, get into $74,000. It's a very common level. Broken, resistance, turn support. Now with this area outstanding, I think this is a key indication for us that there is another leg higher. You will understand and assess from previous cycles such as 2021, this initial shakeout obliterated everything, temporarily, which then led to the finale of the cycle, which was also an alt season. Judging from the fact these altcoins, the ones I'm showing here are not, and I'm not going to say which ones myself and the members have been buying and will be buying more aggressively, but notably, not everything currently looks like this. In fact, most altcoins trade in the equivalent of these regions here, near all-time lows, which is of course contributing to fear beyond belief that we haven't seen in quite some time. Now, I think we are due a cheeky pullback further to the downside, because at the moment reality is not truly kicked in for most people. As a matter of fact, I'm going to add a fifth chart very quickly, which is going to be Solana. And I'm going to show you another quick example of this as well, which I think is contributing to what I'm showing you. Now, notably, when you look at what is theoretically within toppy territory on a monthly time frame, XRP and Solana have done the exact same thing, which tells me they are going to inevitably suffer worse than the others, but simultaneously, they may be giving a very big telltale sign that they have already topped, and minus one more possible squeeze through their highs, they are giving toppy indications. Now, this is not a bad thing, first of all, and I'm going to explain this further as well, because it plays into the psychology and sentiment of what's underway. When you look at the big players and you understand how these cycles work, it's very, very simple. When these things begin to drop, and understanding who actually is involved in these markets, the amount of capital involved in these markets, and who controls these markets, this is not scary to me. When you see this here, XRP liquidate the high and Solana liquidate the high, it's easy to look at that and go, oh shit, we are about to crash to the ground, it's over. That may be the case, but I do not think that is the case when the bulk of the total market cap charts are yet to go higher. What this simply tells me is the bulk of the money from there to there to there on Solana, BTC and XRP. Who do you think created the recovery in the first place? If retail were capitulating here, here and here, who the hell was buying Solana, XRP and BTC with enough size to cause a reversal and these moves? The truth is, most people, in terms of retail, I am retail as well, just to throw that out there, are not buying this until we start really ripping higher. By that point, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The whales do the bulk of the buying at these levels to form the recovery. The retail then eventually jump on and contribute to the top of the territories and the top of the cycles. Now, seeing sell-offs of this nature tells us one simple thing. The people that created these moves in the first place have now realized what is very likely billions of dollars of profit. Same as F, even though it's not as much, it's still profit being realized. This does not indicate retail selling. This tells us very large players are taking profits. Now, I don't know about you, but I think this is arguably the biggest telling sign that profits are now realized and profits are due to be rotated, arguably into those which have not yet done this. So when you see people already telling you there's no more Altseason, there's no more this, there's no more that, well, I think that's nonsense, because we have already seen with proof that some very large players have already gone on meteoric rallies. XRP and Solana alone, not to mention HBAR and a handful of others, are clear indications that capital is being allocated to altcoins. But the others have not yet caught up, which means these are likely the chosen contenders for this cycle to make money. Now that those profits are realized, I'm going to assume, with a little bit of a drop lower, profits from here, and profits from here are going to be rotated. That tells me that there is a lot of greed still trapped in these, and notably with the bigger pumps we saw, and particularly this drive here on XRP that is now being engulfed entirely, and I think we should easily get into 1.5 and lower, possibly very, very soon, is going to be a telling sign. Now, most people that buy these coins, again, psychologically speaking, will think the best is yet to come. How can you think with a move from 15,500 to 100k that the cycle is just getting started? This is classic toppy territory. And I want to highlight something here in terms of what happened in 2021 that will probably be quite interesting to you. I'm going to bring this back and bring XRP and BTC side by side, and hopefully this will whip them up together. Now, if we understand that this is outstanding and can very likely become a foundation for where the cycle begins to top within this region, what we really want to do here is just get maybe an ellipse tool or whatever and just place that there as a rough idea of where you would assume the market is going to come into this level, bearing in mind I think we're going to go lower, and there's a very key indication for that, but I think the key to capitulation is breaking below $70,000. Because notably, when you pay attention to what all the influencers are currently saying, just remember, in this monthly candle and within this massive greed drive higher to the key psychological 100k level, it was very hard to find someone that was willing to even accept 90,000 would be broken. In fact, in this particular toppy extreme greed area, people were saying we'll never see this price again, we'll never go down again, the best is getting started. That level of delusion and greed is what contributes to making these moves so effective and making the reversal so effective. Now, XRP, as always, is something I've highlighted, and obviously one of my beloved baby coins, which, by the way, I have now sold all of from the public portfolio. I'm going to break that down as well later down the line. But notably here, something happened in 2021. Everything collapsed with BTC. Massive fear. Oh shit, the market cycle is over. When this happened, we saw extreme capitulation on altcoins and everything else. This recovery, which marks the top of the cycle and the final drive, which I believe is going to be this move here, marked the alt season. And when BTC sold off and catastrophically dropped everything with it, when BTC dropped 55%, those profits then got rotated into altcoins. And this particular move here is what created alt season, which also marks the end of the cycles. And I think this is exactly what's happening now. Now, there is a notable characteristic of big performers, in particular previous cycles, and one of those big performers is XRP, which also still done very, very well in the 2020 COVID cycle. In fact, this was arguably my best play ever, and you saw this journey live, turning 30k to over 650k with XRP. Now, we need to look at percentages. As a matter of fact, even in this cycle, XRP has done pretty damn well from bottom to the current top. Let me just get that to the perfect bottom there. It has done around 1,000%. Now, notably, this is less than previous cycles, and notably from 2020, BTC done around 1,700%, which was just a little bit less than XRP. Now, notably, altcoins do generally perform better than BTC. And due to the fact that we are trading at much higher prices, you will note that BTC is still underperforming in some extent. And if we get a little squeeze higher within this region, to get 1,000%, it needs to go to 170,000. Right now, I don't think that's the case. But looking to around here, to simply complete the channel, that's around 670, call it maybe 700%. BTC cycles are slowing down and things are beginning to change. This could be the key. Now, notably here in 2021, when BTC crashed, what did XRP do? XRP bottomed with the market, reversed up with BTC, but because it had performed so significantly well, it didn't go on to make new highs. As a matter of fact, it created a lower high. When BTC topped up here, BTC went higher. Do you know what did perform much better in this window? Every other coin, pretty much, because XRP was the big mover for that cycle initially. And this is exactly what's happened here again. Now, of course, people will not listen to this or even consider this because delusion. We know what the XRP army is like. And this is what makes this very effective, using XRP as one example, because as we know, with the news that's coming, potential lawsuit settlement, you know, the usual stuff that's going on. There's so many things happening. Brad's at the crypto summit. It's not easy for people to detach from their coins. And of course, they will be seeking more and more. I would say at this point in time, there are much better opportunities in other coins. And I'll be breaking that down later with what I'm doing myself. But notably here with this outperformance that we've seen on XRP, plus the fact we've liquidated that high and sold off immediately, I have a very good feeling that if we get this sell-off, and I'll show you a bit more about what to do here, I think we're going to continue. So you want to now understand, if this is the key level on a monthly, where could price go down to? And you will notice with a simple trend line, and may I throw out there, we're still in a bull market, by the way. It's amazing how the biggest of bulls that lured everyone in up to all-time highs are now saying we're in a bear market. And me, notoriously being the most bearish man in the world, should probably be saying the same. But I don't think that's the case. And the current sentiment we can see is a very telling sign of that as well. Just so you guys know, we're still in a bull market. A single bearish candle does not change that. And as a matter of fact, for as long as we remain above this level on a monthly time frame basis, which is $50,000, we are still within a bull market. But what you now need to understand is something I was saying up here from the offset. It's going to eventually retrace. You have to be a lunatic to believe a highly volatile speculative market like cryptocurrencies, based on nonsense and get-rich-quick schemes, is going to retrace at some point. Just because the government holds some or are allegedly legitimizing it, it does not change the fact that this market is in a bubble. And I think this is a major contributing factor as well to how the cycle is going to end. And I think now that we are within that 100k territory, of course, you've got BlackRock telling you it's going to be at $1 million in 5 years. Of course, they're going to say that. BlackRock, just like Trump and everyone else, are not your friends. If they were your friends, Trump would have pushed this up to $1 million to make you money. But no, he done the opposite. He released 2 meme coins, rugged the fuck out of them, and then basically crumbled everything. If that's not enough evidence that these people are not your friends, I don't know what will. But what I will say is stop trusting these individuals, because this is what makes the crypto market so volatile and so easy to manipulate. Now, BlackRock, we'll get into the ETFs in a moment as well, but BlackRock and all the others. BlackRock are giving price predictions. Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy buying more. None of that is there to help you. Again, these people are not sitting there. Larry Fink isn't sitting there going, actually, do you know what? I'm feeling very generous today. I'm going to predict $1 million BTC, to name an example, and say we'll get there in 5 years' time, because I think it will. And I'm going to help everyone out there, all those lovely individuals that are, are beneath me. I'm going to help them today. I'm feeling really nice. That is just not the reality of life and not the case. These people make their money by us suffering and losing money. It's a very malicious game. We are in a battleground here. This is a war, and if you do not understand what you are going up against, you are going to lose. We are up against very manipulative, malicious competition in this game. They have the capability to move the market, and we unfortunately do not. Furthermore, what are BlackRock doing here? You are seeing a lot of narratives right now, that BlackRock are accumulating. No, they are not. It is their customers accumulating. They are basically facilitating the access to the ETFs. That is customer inflows and customer outflows. And as you can tell by many of the narratives, they have now crumbled. BlackRock wants people to buy Bitcoin because they make money on fees, not because they're accumulating themselves. And if they do accumulate themselves, I can assure you it will not be here. And if anything here tells you something, again, very common, simple supply and demand market dynamics. To initiate this level of selling and to fulfill a movement of this nature to the downside, a lot of Bitcoin must be sold, same as XRP. Simultaneously, to generate the liquidity to fulfill those orders, you need a huge amount of fools to be willing to buy that Bitcoin or also XRP off you. And that's exactly what's happened. Where was BlackRock? Where was everyone else? Right here and right here. Why weren't they saying XRP to $3 here? Why weren't they being so generous there? Why do they all of a sudden appear very, very bullish in questionable places? That should always be something on your mind. That was always XRP, often the one that marks the beginning of the end, has in my opinion done the same thing. And if we begin to go towards 1.5, you're going to see some fear beyond belief, and we can pretty much even hit $1 depending on how low this goes. But I think it's very simple here. I think now that altcoins predominantly are trading around this level, and as a matter of fact, what I will also do to put this in perspective is just get the others chart open as well to help visualize where most altcoins are in comparison to where everything else is. And in theory, even this is relatively high in comparison to where a lot of altcoins trade, but you can use this as a basis as well, because notably the others chart done the same thing. It liquidated the high, tapped him, and is now very likely going to liquidate this low around 150 billion. Very, very likely. It's at a critical level here at the moment, but that should already tell you the market is in a very dangerous level. And if all the greed has been brought in here, altcoins probably need to achieve maximum fear. And this particular movement down should logically correspond with BTC breaking below $70,000. Remember, the whole world has been convinced we will never go down again. That is already a top indication. And as a matter of fact, I still believe XRP will break below 50 once it all is said and done in the next bear market, and will go below 30 cents. In fact, I can almost guarantee in a bear market that will likely be the case, because the level of greed we are seeing, the level of FOMO we have seen, and the sheer amount of narratives make it more plausible. Because when you understand these people are not here to help you, the more they deploy these positive narratives, the more they are trying to essentially ruin your lives. Now, I think a good framework for what could be happening here, and going back to the other charts that we've got, is to now bring these side by side together. What I'm going to go ahead and do here is bring the total market cap and BTC chart back together. Seeing that this is outstanding and the total market cap likely needs to achieve a $5 trillion market cap approximately, tells me the final stage of the cycle is yet to come. And what you want to be understanding is the moment we get into this level and break down, there is going to be fear beyond belief. And I personally feel we are going to hit this trend line and very likely squeeze through. In fact, we could even hopefully temporarily break $60,000. And I think this move here does not invalidate the trend whatsoever. In fact, it keeps us in an uptrend. This should be enough when you assess that this would bring altcoins to all-time lows again. People are already losing faith here. Can you imagine what happens if they break down to all-time lows or slightly lower again? We are going to see the largest capitulation event we have ever seen. And the total market cap is exactly the same. Pointing down, simple trend line. I'm not, again, going to tell you where I'm buying or what I'm buying, but as a rough guideline, using those trend lines there, you can clearly see where the market needs to go lower. And it's actually not a big move at all. In fact, I am mind blown at how we have such significant levels of fear at such a price. But that's what strengthens the probability here. And I think this is going to be the key to bouncing up for the final drive and bouncing up for the final drive. Now at that point is where shit hits the fan, I feel. And I want to break that down now as well. What we want to do here is assess the narratives and assess where we currently are from a narrative standpoint, which in the current day is zero. Every narrative that this market has been relying on is now complete, with the strategic reserve marking the finale of that. First, what did we have? ETFs within this window. Now, as always, what was being said here, billions of inflows every single day, billions and billions and billions is going to take us to $1 million. BlackRock are buying, whoever else is buying. No, they weren't, you donkey. It was customers. Now, notably, for something very drastic to happen here, and knowing that most people were not interested in BTC, I find it very convenient that the SEC, especially Captain Gary, who was very anti-crypto from what we saw with his regulation by enforcement, approved these here. Now, what has this done? This has added a new demographic of crypto buyers into the market. Now, logically, if you're going to buy these ETFs, you're not going to buy them if you're already buying Bitcoin on Kraken or Binance or Coinbase. You know, you're probably, unless you're going to add it to an ISA or something like that and you want some other exposure. This is a whole new demographic of retail and specifically opening the doors to hedge funds and Wall Street to enter as well. A whole new wave of retail entered towards the drive to the previous all-time high. What then happens around the all-time highs is we get the halving and the rate cut narratives. Remember when they said the halving price will have to go higher? What's happened to that? It now approximately costs more to mine a Bitcoin than the actual Bitcoin rewarded to mine the block. That means capitulation for miners. I also have a question about the sustainability of Bitcoin, something I've highlighted many times before. How much higher can it go? Now, logically, for mining to continue sustaining, Bitcoin has to theoretically go up forever. That raises a big cause for concern. Furthermore, rate cuts appeared here. Now, what was the narrative for rate cuts? Oh, perfect. No one's going to want to keep money in the bank now. No one's going to want to do that. They're going to want to buy into assets. No. Because what people fail to realise is there is no inflation affecting your money in the bank if you are not buying consumer products. $150,000 in the bank as an example, or £1 million in the bank, is still £1 million in the bank if you are going to buy assets such as this. In fact, £1 million in the bank, let's say held from 2021 November down to November 2022, no inflation has affected that money in the bank if you're buying Bitcoin at around a 70% discount. In fact, that £1 million has got stronger. And again, rubbish narratives, echo chambers and just sheep following sheep. People just yapping to yap. Now, notably, after this all happened, there was one finale that the market was waiting for. Presidential elections and Trump. Trump becomes president and marks the Pico top. And from that very moment, we have not gone any higher. Now, that's perfect, because the narratives are now drying up and people are starting to realise they've been fooled once again, as they do every other time. It was too good to be true. Doesn't mean it's not going to get better. And in fact, it's perfect that it's happening from here. Now we have a strategic reserve and stockpile. Now, as I noted in the videos, and as I've been saying on Twitter, or X now, the stockpile is arguably the best thing we could ask for. Now, there are some complexities here. Again, you would have to be a bit deluded to believe that they were immediately going to start buying digital assets and stockpiling them. In fact, there is no difference with this strategic reserve and stockpile. They've just made it official, so to speak. They've rebranded what they were doing anyway, which is holding seized Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Now, it does raise a question on, however, does it now incentivize them to seize more? I would say yes. They have theoretically given everyone what they wanted, a strategic reserve, but all they've done is take the crypto they already had and they're going to chuck it in there. They've stated they have no intention to buy more and have no intention to sell it. So my next question is, what the fuck are they doing with it? Excuse my French. If you're not planning to buy more and you're not planning to sell more, how are you planning to monetize this? What is the key? And what is the agenda? Now, they have stated there are ways they are considering, and they're looking into ways they can potentially accumulate more Bitcoin, such as potentially selling the altcoins in the stockpile to buy more. At the moment, we don't have an answer for that. We just know they're holding the seized Bitcoin they had and stole in the first place. Nothing has changed. With that now being said, I think a perfect formula for absolute sheer disaster is on the verge of happening. And notably, something even more malicious and manipulative took place here that likely is contributing to this. Just before, as we look at this here, again, I called this perfectly, publicly and for members. Once we broke down, I was looking for 95, which I think is going to start bringing us below 70. And at present, this has played perfectly, and I will literally overlay this on the charts to show you now, because I think this is cooking up for something remarkable. Notably, first of all, with what has taken place here, why could an Altseason now be so effective, and why would another leg lower be so effective? Well, if you look at every single narrative that has now finished, the market has not responded to this how people believed. And if you now think about how much money is trapped within the market from this November rally, in terms of leverage and in terms of spot, the market always does something which is wipe out all of that confidence before a recovery. And what you are now seeing is the beginning phases of that. I think it's going to go higher after this is said and done. Now, notably, what's happened on the monthly, we just broke the floor and we've rejected. There are 22 days left for this monthly closure. We have started the month up bullish. That just means going over to the weekly time frame here and breaking down more manipulation. This is exactly what they've done. Now, notably, actually, side by side is probably just as important. The total market cap has pretty much done the same thing. It's come into the lows and it's rejected. More importantly, what's just happened here that most people have seemingly ignored? That breakout there is the high. We had a fake break, came down, rejected, we've broken, we've now rejected. This logically means we need to start looking lower. And I think that trend line is going to be the key. And have you noticed? We temporarily broke above $3 trillion, just as we temporarily broke above 100k, both psychological numbers. Now, what have you just noticed? We've broken down and we've come back to reject this level, bringing greed back into play. I would say, quite confidently at the moment, this should lead us to at least $2 trillion. Which will arguably piece together incredibly well with the confidence I'm talking about being absolutely obliterated. It's enough of a drop to shift everyone bearish. It's enough of a drop to create capitulation on altcoins and even BTC. But it's not enough of a drop to actually invalidate the concept of a final drive higher, which is where I think things are going to get very, very bad, and we are going to see a great reset and implosion using the channel to understand that we will at least need to get back to here. BTC will at least need to then get back down after hopefully driving up into the 30 to 20k region. Possibly from there, the cycle resets. Now, when I say the cycle resets, I mean things are now changing, incredibly changing. With all of these narratives dried up, first of all, this is fantastic. Should we drop down, people are going to go, well, hold on a minute, we've got the reserve, we've got this, Trump's president, nothing's happening, it's over. That's exactly what you want. I would not be surprised if we start to get a real continuation down, especially into the 60s or so. Again, not going to give precise levels, but just rough guidelines to help you understand and stay calm in these situations. You've watched all these idiots tell you we're going to go higher forever and promise you the world and probably lead some drastic effects. I'm here to give you a bit of hope and confidence that actually the best could yet to become in theory. And I think it's important to have that viewpoint during a time like this, because it seems questionable that people are so bearish here. And I think the answer is altcoins. It's because they haven't gone up as much. But I've just shown you the blueprint for why the others are likely going to mirror that procedure as well. Now, with this weekly candle that I was talking about, this is arguably the clearest indication already that the market does need to go back down. And when you look at this here, with how the total market cap crumbled, a lot of people are failing to realize that we already broke the total market cap range from there. As you can see, total market cap had already broken and rejected and crashed back down. That was confirmation already that we have officially broken those lows. And if you go to the daily time frame, you can see quite clearly we've just simply come in to break and reject. In fact, it's probably even more simple than that. And what you now want to look at is what's taken place here on the total market cap. As a matter of fact, the final trend line we have here has officially been broken. We had a fake move, and this is what I think is going to play into the finale of what will likely be a catalyst for an alt season. And we're going to assess this again. My zone for members, and also publicly I gave it, was 3.1 trillion and a 94.5, 95k BTC. Now let's look at what's taken place here and why this would logically be a logical step to initiate and manipulate the market prior to any downside. And that's, of course, where Trump announces the strategic reserve. And it was a questionable action, in my opinion. Let me go to the BTC chart and understand what's happened here. Well, first and foremost, notably, not only was support completely broken from here, and also completely broken from around this range over here as well. Support was broken. Now, when price breaks down, logically, it's going to come back and reject at some point. The fact this happened ahead of time is perfecto to me, because what we now have is a downside level, over here, which is yet to be fulfilled. Now, the first thing I want to mention is this breakdown lower. Look at where price stopped. It didn't really hit a logical level. And as a matter of fact, if you go to the weekly time frame, why I'm looking lower is because from 73.5 towards where that level is, there's nothing to the left-hand side. This is unknown territory. So where we have currently peaked and bottomed is a random level, in theory. And it hasn't come into this level. So this already tells you from historical price action, this is the key level to watch. Now, the fact this has stopped just there is perfect. Because at this moment in time, also just a simple trend line from here as well, broken and rejected. That was literally one of the contributing factors to how I called this. Now here, no one's going to buy. Extreme fear. Everyone's panicking. Market recovers. Market crashes. People try and revenge trade here. Let's zoom in and break that down as well. What happened here? Market crashed. Bullish candle gets printed. Of course, people are trying to revenge trade. They start to buy. One girthy candle comes in, liquidates everyone. Hasta la vista. What happens after that liquidation? The market starts reversing. But no one's going to buy after that because they're expecting lower. There is no buying happening here. Until suddenly, Trump announces ADA, SOL and XRP. a questionable basket of digital assets. This leads to the move higher. What was very strange is that he didn't mention F and BTC until after. That raised some questions to me as well. I was like, what the hell is this man talking about? It was very strange. But either way, suddenly an incentive was provided to bring in buying. Suddenly, an incentive is provided for a new wave of buyers to come in, probably from the top of that pump, if not from here, with liquidations and stop losses below this low. Because at this point, we have lost most money. People are getting obliterated. We have seen billions of dollars in liquidations. Market drives up, the market is now coming down, and there is an incredibly high probability that at least this void is going to inevitably be filled. And because the narratives have now dried up, if we break what is theoretically the final psychological floor and see Bitcoin begin to dive below $70,000, think about what people are going to think and feel. They are going to be terrified and quite likely going to absolutely shart their pants. And that is what we want. When you see that and you're on the final brink of hope, remember, they didn't even think these prices were possible. And what this tells us is when people tell you we're never going down again or we're never seeing those prices again, that tells me their decisions within the market reflect that current bias and delusion, which of course is delusion. It is delusion. Now, if that's the case, you've probably done a lot of buying here and you've probably done a lot of leverage trading here. Now that we have liquidated most of those people, and as I said in a previous YouTube video, notably, very key thing to take into consideration here is we saw a huge liquidation event, but we have not actually seen a capitulation event. And I think that's going to be located below this level. In fact, if you were following me on Twitter, you would have seen when this was up here around the 100k, what I basically showed was this. I said, if we close this monthly candle below the high of the previous November closure, we are going to drop down to here. And this is a good way to illustrate this. And I can probably even push this up to 20,000 now because we're beginning to see this unfold in real time. It's taken a bit of time, to be honest with you, but I really think this is the key. I think we've got so much fear here already. And if we've got extreme fear at this level, what the hell happens if we break into 70 and come into the fear zone? The likelihood is here from this level down to this level, and this is the range to really use as a basis of around 70 to 60,000 or 58,000, let's say. Within this zone, you are likely going to see everyone give up faith, fear beyond belief. What would maximize this, of course, is ideally some FUD here. Is it going to be a war? Something going to happen with Iran? We've run out of crypto narratives. But what I will also tell you is if you were willing to believe that a pro-crypto president, who, by the way, is seemingly quite clueless on everything going on, it's probably his son that's done all this. You know, when you look at his previous interviews on podcasts and stuff, that was all his son predominantly. That was Barron telling him to go on to these podcasts. When you see Trump signing those executive orders for crypto, and he even said at the summit, you know, we will not be selling. Isn't that what people say? Buy forever, hold forever, diamond hands. You know, Trump has no idea. The guy is just doing what he needs to do to please the crowd. This was all a political show, as every other politician will do every time they are elected. But I think this is key. If you were willing to believe the man was here for your helping, I would assume that if we get into this danger zone for most people, which simply for me, broken down even further, is doing nothing more than wiping out the monthly candle. All I really want to see is price come in and take out this particular candle where the bulk of FOMO occurred. I think if we can break below specifically 66,000, at this point, it's probably a complete ticking time bomb for the market to make its final leg, where an alt season likely occurs in this window, which then marks the end of the cryptocurrency cycle. And you have to admit, hopefully, that it's likely we are near the end phase of that cycle. In fact, the key characteristics I've shown before of a cycle getting very close to an end is when those candles start getting more aggressively bullish. That's not a positive sign. And unfortunately, most people still can't comprehend such a concept. This is not designed for you to win. And I'm only using coloured candlesticks to illustrate a point here. But if you look at this again with where this is floating, and also disregard the narratives, a whole new bunch of people have been brought in here from the strategic reserve news that brought price into support term resistance, rejected a key level, we've got what we needed and nothing's happened. This means anything lower is going to create fear. What this logically means up to here is we can get some FOMO. Now, going over to the total market cap and looking at this on the weekly basis as well, exactly the same concept. This tells me, with altcoins being a contributing factor to this as well, you want to start looking at this ideally coming back to 2 trillion, which could then lead to the major finale. Now, this seems quite insane, but if I zoom out and go back to all of my charts over here, we can now see how this begins to tie into what I was saying has happened before. And if you go over to this region, you will notice over here, BTC just about took out the high. But there was a much bigger squeeze on the total market cap. That was notably over here, by the way. Look at this. Look at the crosshairs crossing over. F wicked down in this cycle as well. Done the same as BTC and everything else, but look, XRP did not make a new high because it had already done some serious numbers. F went on to make new highs. Well, in this cycle, F has not made new highs. Solana has. So that is probably a mirror of this. In fact, these will probably do the same. If we get another correction down, let's say to 1.5 or specifically low, I'm not going to give specifics, but 1.5 as a reference point. If we see an Altseason in this rally here, there is a much higher likelihood that these have topped. Let's say 2.5. Let's just say $2.53. Solana should break the $100 psychological level, probably get a bounce up, maybe to 200 if you're lucky, and start to come down to there. That will probably be the same for XRP. Now, notable questions here raise for Ethereum, and I think there's an answer. F has an identical channel. You can draw that on your charts and see yourself. It's done, theoretically as well, what I said the others will probably do. If you look at this here, taken out the high, taken out the low. One notable factor here, the trend line's broken on the monthly, price is perfectly rejected, which is also support. So there is an increasingly large chance you could see a very big drop on Ethereum. But what that may lead to from there, remember there's fear, but there's not enough fear. And should we get another squeeze down, the likelihood is F is going to drive up to there and complete the sequence as well. Whereas these have probably met their end. I'm not saying it's going to reverse from here. In fact, I would say F could probably lose another 50% if shit really hits the fan. But we're not that far off. And you can clearly see from where we are, the cycle is yet to be completed. Now, in terms of what I'm doing as well, so my XRP from the public portfolio has all been sold. I sold the last amount around $1.77. And of course, it's been met with a lot of criticism. Again, people saying you're sidelined or you sold too early. But no, I've extracted a profit from the market, a very large profit for that matter. I invested on an average price of 29 to 30 cents where no one else invested. I sold a good chunk from 98 to $1 and got the remainder out up towards 1.77. Now, notably, that's exactly where price went back to pretty much on the last month's spike. I could buy back there, but I'm not going to do so. Now, my plan here, and of course, in all honesty, I wasn't expecting that to happen right now. I was looking, as you guys probably know, for another cheeky drop down to maybe 20 and then get this move. But unfortunately, we got the move straight away. Now, with that being said, because of where I bought, people will laugh and make jokes, and I'm too old now. I'm almost 30 years old. I don't deal with idiots online anymore, unfortunately. I don't listen to trolls with no profile picture who can't show their face. I don't do that stuff anymore. It's childish. At the end of the day, I made a profit. And this is what's key with XRP and everything else as well. At this point, with euphoria still being high, we're at a very delicate line for the market where if these floors break, reality is going to kick back in for most people. And because my focus always is to buy as low as possible, I can sell, in terms of percentage, by the way, from the very low which I bought up to there, is still around a 7 500% profit overall from bottom to top. It's a rather large percentage to make. Now, I didn't make an entire 500%, but the point is, from bottom to top, it's still a very good number. And people will ridicule and be like, oh, but you could have made more. I know, and if my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike. But that's not the case. I'm here to make a profit. Now, notably, this happens every cycle. When you start to see this stuff happen and you start to take profits, people will say, congratulations, you've sold the generational bottom, whatever. But the truth is, even if you make, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, even if you double your money in crypto, you are going to end up better off than 99% of people. Because every cycle, every single time, and you saw me illustrate this in real time, how much ridicule did I get selling this here during the SEC crash? We done a video on it. I sold before and bought back here. How much ridicule did I get when I sold there? How much ridicule did I get when I sold, I think around 1.6 or 5, and it went up a bit higher? I don't care if it goes beyond. That's why I scale out systematically. But my goal here is simple. XRP for me has probably met its top and end. It can possibly get another squeeze to $4. I don't care. It's made me a lot of money, and I am now taking that money, and I'm going to rotate what this has provided me up to $1.7 to now rotate that back into coins that look like XRP before it went higher. Now, this is key to understand, because in situations like this, even when I'm wrong, and I was wrong on this, absolutely, again, I'll never lie about that stuff, by the way, and I won't shy away from it because it's normal. People will judge me for the losses because people just want to see you fail. That's unfortunately how it is in this industry, and especially doing what I do, people will completely disregard the fact that I've called altcoins perfectly regardless. Everything I've invested in, I'm still basically afloat in. It's people will point at one particular thing, but they won't look at the fact I've actually called the perfect bottom on alt so far. I've called this reversal. You have to adapt. Even if you're wrong, the goal is to make money. And I can assure you, any of you that have taken profits out of the market here are going to end up in a significantly better position than most people. Because when these things crash down and you realize most people have yet again fallen for the narratives and not sold, they are the reason why I think we're going to get an alt season. Because most people will be holding and contributing and buying more. And what makes a capitulation so effective is people clinging on to narratives. And should we start to break down, I would also argue that most people at this point probably do not have a lot of money left. Now, how do you get into capitulation? People need to be forced to sell. The same way to form a top, an extreme greed, you need people willing to buy those tops so people can sell Bitcoin and the whales can basically offload their coins. And the same applies here now. A singular sweep lower is going to deliver a very harsh reality check for most people. And I think they're going to possibly miss out on the final alt season ever. Now, I want to go to the total market cap for this one. Now, what people need to now realize as well is, should we get this, which means this is the final phase of the cycle theoretically. I mean, if it doesn't go up to here, then that's bullshit. Like, that is just, it's over. I'm going to be honest. If we do not get this bounce and drive, then yes, it's over. But do you really think, considering there's a digital asset stockpile as well, do you really think the market ends here? And why do you now think that if 99% of people thought it was just beginning here? If that isn't a perfect representation of market psychology, I don't know what is. But what I will say, and why this will likely be the last, is because I think now that we have crypto being legitimized, everything I've written about in those books in our library, in the app, I think most of you have probably read them now. Everything I've written about has eventually and essentially led to this moment now, I feel. We're at a very different point in time in crypto. This is no longer 2017. And the truth is, I think Wall Street and the institutions have always been here. Only now it's official with ETFs, etc. If you look at the S&P 12-month time frame and BTC 12-month time frame, you will notice something here, which is very similar. Massive girthy bullish candle. Massive girthy bullish candle for the 12 months. The whole of 2024, fat bullish rip. Stock market broke through a key level of resistance. What have they both just done? They've driven up to start the year to liquidate the previous monthly high. They have now reversed down. Where do you think the S&P is likely going if we correct down this year? It should go back to around 4,800. They have done the exact same thing. And of course, if the stock market is going to decline down to this level, which is very plausible, very, very plausible, I would not be surprised if the positive stuff starts happening around there. Potential rate cuts coming in around here. You know, they're not going to let the Ponzi of this whole economic system collapse just yet. But what I think they will do is, if we see something of this nature, this is where we need to start thinking about the black swans. We need to start thinking about a collapse in the end of the markets. Because what is also notable here to cover is most people in the modern day and age, and this, for me, I've always said it, this is the dot-com boom and bust all over again. It is the exact same thing. This is a new speculative asset. And even though we've got crypto legitimized, with the governments now allegedly on board, who were suspiciously all against it a couple years ago, by the way, why are they bullish at 100k? You need to ask yourself these questions. The point here is, unlike, let's say, the 2008 crisis, yes, property contributed, but not everyone had property. If you think about where most people have likely put any disposable income, stimulus, etc., it's been predominantly stocks and crypto. So what this also means is if we reach these levels, everyone that's getting shaken out here will jump back in if we break that high. If we see this high broken and we see Bitcoin's high broken here, what most won't be looking at is that there's just a key channel we are coming into right here. So what that means is anyone shaken out here will probably start to buy again as we approach 90 to 100,000. And what they will likely do is buy a lot more if a new all-time high is made. And you guessed it. Anyone here, what has happened? We're never going down again. Last chance to buy. Don't get shaken out. You're sidelined. Ha ha ha. Oh, I bet they wish they were sidelined right now. Oh no, fear, sell, it's over. Please, no. What's going on? Get out. Capitulation. We're back, we're back, we're back. And the moment that high gets broken, aligned with that level, is basically a ticking time bomb, factoring in a final squeeze to bring in FOMO. And I think this is where things are going to start imploding. Now, the key to this is understanding not just the legitimization I'm talking about, but also regulations. Stable coins, the MiCA EU regulations. Tether is being delisted. Now, you know my thoughts on Tether, and hopefully you've read the books. And I've actually got next week a Tether deep dive for you guys as well in the new documentary format. But I think at this point, this is where things are going to change. Crypto is now being entered into the mainstream and legitimized. In its current form, it's still a bubble that is propped up on the illusion it's a get-rich-quick scheme. This raises questions, because if we are going to see any form of government participation officially, with actual buying and selling, etc., well, 99% of the current bullshit we see needs to stop. Pronto, may I add. NFTs, 2021. Exactly the same as memes right now. A bunch of celebrities and influencers in 2021 milked the living shit out of NFTs. Scammed loads of people, robbed loads of people, promised a bunch of stuff. Adios. In 2025, it's on 2024, it's meme coins. Everyone's doing a meme coin now. Rugging, getting away with it, see you later. And that includes the president, by the way. We're not disregarding that man from what he's done. And notably, in that window of Gary leaving the SEC between Trump's inauguration, he used that window to create a meme coin. That's suspicious. Because officially, now as president, I don't think he's even allowed to talk about it. So you tell me what's going on there. That, for me, is broad daylight robbery and leveraging the system and the FOMO of unwilling and rather naive crypto investors. Now, if we see this get to here, what we need to start thinking about is the cycle will reach unbelievable levels of extreme greed, euphoria, and FOMO. And of course, the market will then seem too big to fail, which is exactly where markets begin to topple and fail. And I think this will be the last Altseason we ever see. Number one, because of how long they've been crippled by BTC's dominance. But number two, because if we're about to see a regulatory shift, this means what I've been saying all along could be very, very close to becoming a reality. And that is the market shifting from the dot-com boom and bust style bubble to a regulatory and fully regulated framework, stable coins and CBDCs. Right now, Mr. Trump is giving the people what they want. Oh, we won't be doing a CBDC. Yes, they will. And there's two ways that's going to happen. First of all, using existing stable coins, they are using this on purpose to trick us. It's clear as day. We are going to have stable coins instead. Well, that means they're going to regulate it and control them to a level where it is essentially still a CBDC. Furthermore, what do the governments love to do? They love to create panic and black swans and particular events that then allow them to step in as the saviour and introduce a solution. So whilst they currently are going down the stablecoin route, a notable factor and a notable contribution could be Tether. If Tether implodes, I would argue it's going to happen at the peak euphoria moment. And then the government will step in and introduce a CBDC. The EU are not slowing down on it, and I don't think they will either, the US government. I think a lot of things can go wrong there, whether it is a new pandemic up there, but my plan really is to understand that the landscape is on the verge of changing. And should something happen, especially after peak euphoria, my goal is to simply buy some very interesting altcoins that I've got on my radar. Most of them I've already bought. Again, they're still in profit. I just want to buy them again if they drop down. Take profits once they hopefully do what XRP and Solana have already done. And I think these coins, on average, what I'm looking at is around 1,000 to 3,000%. But I'm going in, unlike 30,000, with around 500,000. So I'm looking to aim for around 1,000 to 3,000% with a select few coins that I've got already and want to stack up more. I am going, if we see this go to plan, get the hell out here because things will likely change. This will be, if we see the biggest rally ever and the finale and we start to crash down, this movement here is going to be, which again, just a simple trend line, doesn't actually invalidate the overall trend in theory. It could bloody lead much higher. The point is, if we see this collapse down, this is where the market as a whole will actually start to assess the logistics of all of this, the true value of this market. Right now, the value is how rich can I get off this as quick as possible. That's going to stop one day. And once Wall Street gets in, you know you're near the end of the cycle. Now, if you also think about this for a moment and look at most altcoins near all-time lows, just to throw this out there as well of why I believe they are involved. If they've already contributed to these altcoins, and these altcoins are near all-time lows when Bitcoin and total market cap is here, but they're not near zero, that means a lot of money is still being generated to buy these coins. Someone is still buying these altcoins to keep them afloat. Yes, they're lower, but they're not dead. They're not at zero. So who's keeping them afloat? As a matter of fact, who kept Solana afloat here when it logically should have died? Who kept that afloat at $10? In fact, who created the pump? Who created this pump? This is basically what you're seeing now for most altcoins. And I think if we get another little cheeky crash like that, that's going to be where they step in. And they probably already have stakes in these coins. So that tells me if the implosion is on the verge of happening after another rally, it's in their best interest, whether it's VCs or Wall Street, to pump these up one more time, because that's what's going to really bring retail FOMO. If you assess where we currently are, and considering BTC's made new all-time highs, we do not have that same greed. We had it temporarily here in November, but the key to real mass destruction for me is a final leg higher to a $4 or $5 trillion market cap at least. And I think when this happens, 99% of most of these coins, which provide no value or purpose whatsoever, will be gone. I'm going to sell everything with a pretty profit, let everyone else fall for the delusions and belief. And I believe at that point, the market is going to reset. And only once we really see that reset, whether it's through a Tether implosion, another pandemic, and whatever other bullshit they come up with, a stock market collapse and reset, we know everything here is basically a house of cards waiting to fall. But I do truly believe at a point in time like this, whilst everyone is scared, negative, really terrified, I personally believe the best is yet to come. I would be really shocked if the market genuinely collapsed and crashed from here. I think a little cheeky move lower, really maximise fear, some form of recovery takes place, rate cuts, quantitative easing, something's going to happen to recover the market because there's too much fear here. But what I think this is now done as well with the official strategic reserve and digital asset stockpile is it has confirmed kind of our worst nightmares in theory. None of this is a positive, because what this now means is what makes crypto so fun and volatile was the vast assortment of altcoins and meme coins and stuff. But we're now at a point where people are going to have to start assessing these things based on the real world value they provide. And if governments are going to utilize this, they can't be this volatile. They can't be swinging up and down in this way. So eventually, 99% of this rubbish will have to be filtered out. And I think the market will be faced with a huge reason to assess the true value if we get one more euphoric drive and see the biggest and worst losses we've ever seen back down to these levels where we previously were. And I think at that point, this will wipe out most coins, because people, especially if paired with a stock market collapse, will be so terrified they'll lose absolutely everything. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's where you start to see universal basic income, digital, again, government currencies, CBDCs, a lot of things that are underway. We are officially at the starting point of that. So I'm really optimistic here. And again, I'm not one to really ever be bullish until the right time and place. Once again, I'm not perfect at tops. Fortunately, after reevaluating from the current top, I've been perfect so far. I guess a broken clock truly is right twice a day. And in this instance, it's played out quite well, because fortunately I didn't get involved in any of the, nonsense with altcoins. Made a good bit of money from meme coins as well. But I think we're at the cusp of actually a very large alt season, and arguably the last. So I wanted to make this video, number one, as a comeback to technical videos as well, alongside the new animated content that we're making, which hopefully you guys like, but also just to be a voice of reason during a time where all of the idiots that promised the world are now switching bias and making people scared. But I actually think you have no reason to be scared. The only reason you would logically be scared is if you made stupid decisions. But if that's not the case, especially if you took some profits and you're kind of looking for what may happen next, I really feel at the moment this could be exactly how things play out, and I'll be really happy if that does. I don't see any change. I don't see how this would end without an alt season. We've got a bloody digital asset stockpile mentioning altcoins. Like, what more of an indication could you want? And as a matter of fact, people will forget about all that news if we get another drop down. And that's perfect, because you've already got the bullish news here. So just because it hasn't gone up immediately, which I don't know why you would think anyway, like the crypto summit, did you think the man was going to whip out a MacBook Pro, crack open Binance and open 100 times leverage long on BTCF and Solana? Like, no, he's not going to do that. In fact, with expectations for it to be so positive, of course the opposite is going to happen. And that for me now creates the perfect framework for a rather prosperous end of year, I hope. And I do hope I'm correct, but I'm very confident. And I really like what's happening so far. It is playing out very well in terms of the adapted alignments we've been looking for. And I think we could be a stone's throw away from something remarkable. So let's hope that happens. And I hope you've enjoyed this video.